Hello. Okay. Um, Good morning and happy New Year. Welcome to the another stream. Then I thought that I actually have a whole bunch of bugs and pull requests to deal with. One of them is an interesting memory corruption thing. I'm not sure I will get around to the memory corruption bug, but we can look at the list of issues. I actually have a bunch of issues that I wanted to get to today. So my plan is to get to these, the include bug, the socket action bug. Here's the memory corruption bug. And there are some other bugs, and I have some pending pull requests, and I have some pull requests to fix. So that is what I intend to do today, I think, and I might take a little pause at some point and have a coffee. I suggest you do the same at the proper frequency. But okay, maybe I could also mention before I get into this fun debugging thing that I got my talks at FOSDEM in Brussels confirmed, so I'm going to appear 3 times at FOSDEM this year. I'm going to talk about DNS over HTTPS on the main track. I'm going to talk about HTTP 3 in the Mozilla room, and I'm going to participate in a DNS privacy panel discussion in the DNS room. So lots of fun for FOSDEM this year, which is going to be my 10th FOSDEM. Going to be great. But okay, debugging curl or fixing things. I've been a bit slow the last couple of weeks. I have been away and I've been basically having holidays and so there haven't been that much activity, maybe. So we got this. We can start with this Softy. Basically, someone reported, well, Ben Kohler reported that if you build a libcurl program and you just include this header file for the URL API, you actually get build errors because that's not how we document it to work. You should actually not include that header file. When you want to write an application, you should include curl/curl.h, which I mention here. You should use this header file. But okay, so a minor user error, but we could just as well fix that anyway. So I submitted a pull request to make sure that we can actually make such applications compile fine anyway. And this pull request then, well, Daniel Gustafsson approved it, and all checks are clean. So I can start off softly by merging that pull request. So as always, I have to remember the name of my branch where I did this. It is in this branch. I'm going to make sure that it's rebased onto the master, and I'm going to make sure that it actually has the right tags. It closes 3441 actually. Reported by the correct include BER allows, and I could mention that Daniel Gustafsson reviewed it. So looks good. I can merge it. And then it looks fine, and then I can push it to master. Bloom. And when I've pushed it, I can remove my local branch, and we can see that the browser, well, the GitHub pull request closes. We delete the branch over there, and whoop! In 5 minutes, we're 1 pull request down. Okay, only 28 to go. I'm going to skip the first one because that's one I'm working on. I'll probably get back to this. It's about the connection data versus transfer data structs relation cleanup thing. I talked about this in a stream before the new year. Well, that's a bit of a bigger rewrite, so let's save this for in a few minutes. So I did this pull request to revert an older fix that actually then introduced regressions. So this is just my revert as a pull request, and they 23 successful checks, so I can merge this too. I can merge the revert back into master. So back to my terminal, because I like doing this in terminals. So the name of my branch is like, and I rebase, and I make sure that it fixes that one and it closes 34, 39. It reopens PR 3275 because that's the PR that actually brought this fix. That was a regression, so I'm not sure what to do with the original PR, but at least this fixes the regression, and then we bring back the problem that PR should fix. And we push. And I can remove my local branch, and on GitHub it also closed that issue. We can delete the branch now, and we're down to 27 open pull requests. Okay, those were the easy ones. They both built green and fine. We can see some other ones. This one is green. We could check that out in a minute. I'll go back to this. This is a pull request from me. Well, I can go back to the actual. This is the pull request, and it actually fixes this bug report. This concerns a problem with actually CVE in the wget project. The wget project, well, there's this thing called extended attributes. I don't know if users are aware of those in general, but extended attributes are basically metadata that you can store for a file in some file systems. So you don't see it with ls, but you can use this. If you can see this bug report, it says get f_attr. It gets file attributes for a particular file. So if you like this, if you download a file, blah blah blah, and you ask for --x_attr, the curl command line option, it will store extended attributes in the download file, and the extended attributes are MIME type and origin URL. So then you can, after you have downloaded it, you can actually figure out from where it was downloaded and what the MIME type was when you downloaded it. So it works like that. Okay, that's a long explanation, but in the wget project they did that by default, so they didn't require any option to make that happen. And if you then did a download using credentials in the URL, which is actually already there, a shady thing to do, or I mean, it's not shady, it's unwise to use in general, especially like this with HTTP, because you're revealing your name and password for the network. But still, if you did that with wget, it would store the credentials like this in the extended attributes. And well, curl does this as well if you ask for it. But in curl's case, you at least have to ask for it, and then it'll store this URL. So in the wget case, it was sort of unexpected, and it would possibly then accidentally leak your credentials, while in the curl case, you actually have to ask for it, and then it might leak your credentials. Okay, I don't consider this an actual security problem. I consider it an actual usability issue that might not be that obvious to users, so we should really blank out the credentials before storing the original URL so that we won't cause this accidental credential leak for users. And that is what my patch tries to do. So my pull request then actually, if you use this option, it will blank out credentials from the URL and store it without credentials. Okay, so I did that, and then Daniel here, well, it doesn't view anymore, I can't see it anymore because I clicked resolve it. Well, here it is. Daniel actually suggested that it would be a good idea to write a test case for this, and of course he was completely right. So I wrote a test case for it, and I have the code, wrote the test case, and now looking at this, the test case fails in some builds like this. Bam, we're doing a lot of builds on Travis, 27 builds, and 2 of them fail. Well, the complete build, the build succeeds, but the tests fail, and I'll show you what happens. So this is on OS X, and it's these are the build options. We can see that it builds as a debug build with libsh2. That's just sort of those that explains this particular flavor of build. And I think I know what it is. This is my new test case that I added. Unit test for strip credentials from URL, blah blah blah. It failed when expecting, so we can see test 1 got input. And I know what the problem is. This is a build without HTTPS support, and when I then ask it to parse HTTPS, it doesn't recognize the protocol. Right. No, I think a lot of file systems don't support extended attributes. So in those cases, actually, if you use it on a file system without extended attribute support, it'll just silently ignore that and not store anything. Like if you run it on a FAT file system, or I think there are several other older file systems that you can use that so that you won't store extended attributes. So I guess, but I figure that is a little beside the point. The thing is that when you build curl without support for a particular protocol, it'll also not recognize that protocol when parsing URLs regarding that protocol with a scheme part in that URL. Well, okay. When I wrote the strip credentials function, I'll show you. I did this. Okay, let me first check out the correct branch. I think it's called like that, yeah. And the source for this is here. So I wrote this strip credentials function, and I actually made it so that if it can't parse the URL, which it fails to do if it uses a scheme that it doesn't recognize, which in this case is HTTPS because we've built it without HTTPS support, it will not strip credentials because it doesn't recognize the URL. So it won't strip anything for URLs that it fails to parse, which I think is fine because in general curl will already have failed. It won't use this to transfer anything because this curl couldn't transfer this because the protocol was unknown. So I think this is fine. It's hard to handle URLs for protocols you don't know anything about. So in general, then this is the function that then stores the extended attributes, and it actually returns an error. So I guess it can say something if it fails to store the extended attribute. I have to admit that I very, very rarely store extended attributes. So this is not really something I do myself. And I can also admit that I actually wrote this fix basically because I was on a 6-hour flight and was slightly bored and looked through the existing issues, so I took this on. So I figured I should fix it. It's not really something I use a lot. So anyway, back to this test case failure then. This fails because the test case is run even though the test case uses HTTPS without the test case requiring HTTPS as a feature. So by adding HTTPS as a required feature for the test case, building curl is easy. So I had a relatively fresh checkout on my laptop, so I could build curl pretty good on the plane. I think what is most problematic when working on a plane, I think, is that I have to remember, outstanding issues. So GitHub isn't accessible or so on. But when I went back home, like this Wednesday last week, I think it was one of my most productive flights ever. I created, 6 different branches. So I filed 4 pull requests when I got back home, and you're right, and I updated the Everything Curl book with like a whole slew of different sections. So Everything Curl is now actually in a really good shape. Something around 94% of Everything Curl is now covered. I'll show you this little thing. I have a fun little script that actually, well, I am not Hax. Hax is in the Hax I work with. Hax is a company that I am involved with. I'm Daniel, streaming this, which it says somewhere at some point in time. So this my book, then Everything Curl, is actually, it has this little script that evaluates how much completeness it is. So anyway, so I recommend you can try out the Everything Curl book if you want to read stuff about curl, because that's pretty all-covering. Okay, this is zoomed up quite a lot, so this is how it looks. This is the web version of the book. Quite a lot of content. Basically, I'm trying to cover what it's called everything about curl. It is available on Dead Tree as well. Yeah, it's completely free, open, everything. Well, the Dead Tree version that we sometimes make a printed version. I mean, the hard copy version isn't free because someone has to pay for the paper and stuff. So if you ever want to buy a physical copy, you actually have to pay someone and get it shipped. And I think you can actually buy it as well now. You can buy it online and get it shipped to you. I think it's around 20 euros, 25 euros perhaps, if you want it. But you can also just get it online. It's available on web version, PDF version, and some ebook formats. And you can file bugs on it or pull requests if you find issues or want to help to make it better. It's quite a big project. It's, as you might have seen, the PDF version is now rather 320 pages something, so it's quite a thick thing by now. Okay, where were we? So yeah, I fixed that little. Do I have any books about programming? Well, the books I have about programming are very old and out of date and not something I would mention to anyone right now. So no, I wouldn't say I actually never learned. No, well, the books I've written some books, and the books I've written are all free, available, and they're not about programming in general. So my books, well, actually then Everything Curl is the thick book I've written, and then you can find my HTTP2 explained book as well as my HTTP3 explained book, but they're shorter things. So, and they are all free, available, and open, so you can submit bugs and pull requests and everything. And the HTTP2 and HTTP3 explained books, they are translated into other languages as well. I mean, besides English. So you can also help out with translating if you want to. And by the way, the HTTP3 explained book is approaching 1,000 stars on GitHub. So if you just help me bump that up so I could get celebrating my book for reaching 1,000 stars soon. It's just a number, it doesn't matter. Okay, I get easily distracted, but it's fun to have a conversation as well. So no, I won't write. I've actually declined book offers in the past, and I don't. No, it's not available in Swedish. I wrote the HTTP2 explained. I did a translation to Swedish. I wrote it originally in English, and I translated it in Swedish. So which is. I figured out that it's annoyingly complicated to translate these things. Even for myself, translating my own writing to Swedish was work. So I haven't done it. I don't see the Swedish demand to be very strong. So I figured this time I might not do the translation. I'll just wait for someone else to do it or just leave it out. So we have English, French, Chinese, and Japanese so far for the HTTP3 explained. There's apparently a Finnish translation in progress, but that's about it. So if you're a speaker of some other language and want to get some work and spend time and efforts, then go ahead. It's actually quite easy to do the translations. I mean, not easy as in the language part, but the technical part. It's just a matter of adding a subdirectory, copying all the files in, and they're all marked down, so they're easily, that's an easy format. You can just use a text editor and then just go through it and translate sentence by sentence, basically, or paragraph by paragraph, and just submit pull requests. I find it interesting that so many people are interested in my current job, since I don't have a current job. I like not having a job, actually. No, but well, my current job is to sit here and stream curl. No, it's not a job. It's for pleasure and fun. I don't have a job. I quit Mozilla in December, and I'm not. I have, and I want to emphasize this. This is by my will. I do this voluntarily. I don't have a job because I don't want to have a job right now, and I have a lot of offers. I don't have a problem with that, and I have talks with several different companies, and I will have something to tell you about in the future, and I'm sure it'll work out and it'll be great, and I'll let you know about it, and it'll be fun. It'll be slightly different this time. I've been working as a developer since about full-time developer since 1993 at least, so that makes it 25-ish years. I actually did, but I started fiddling with programming on my own on my Commodore 64 back in 1985, which is a very long time ago. And my coffee is getting cold. Well, thank you. I think actually sort of it doesn't really matter. I mean, how long time you are a developer. I think as long as you need to actually work on it and do different projects and try it out and so on. So I've met a lot of people who have been developing for a long time, and then they go off and do something else. So if you did development a long time ago and then didn't do anything at all, it doesn't really matter that you did programming like I did 1985. It doesn't matter if you haven't done it for a lot of years. So as everything, you need to put in a lot of time, and you need to just do it and get experiences and fail a lot of times. And I do a lot of stupid things, but hopefully I actually gradually improve over time. I'm not into data science. I'm into internet protocols and developing fun things. So now I'm going to commit my little fix for my test case, fix up make test 1621 require HTTPS. And when I've fixed, and then I'm going to push my little fix up, bam. And when I've pushed my little fix up, I can go back to the pull request over here and then see that yes, it has restarted all the CI builds, and now it'll take hours until they are complete, and I know if they turned green or not. I think and I hope this is enough, and then after that I will squash all those fixes into one commit and merge the thing. Maybe that will be tomorrow if things work out. Do I think SCTP will ever become what it is meant to be? No. SCTP is it's never going to go anywhere. Well, it goes. SCTP is used frequently, especially within telecom and some limited networks. I mean, not limited perhaps, but controlled networks. because SCTP was never able to really work across the internet, the real wild internet, across all the devices and mailboxes and everything. So that's why SCTP never took off, as there is no HTTP over SCTP and stuff like that. So SCTP will be surpassed by QUIC, I'm sure, because QUIC is in all practical, well, maybe not all, but in many practical I should say that QUIC does what SCTP does in most aspects. So I think if you want to have a connection-based protocol that does streams and actually does streams much better than SCTP, then you'd use QUIC in the future. Not now yet, but that is what QUIC will become. And QUIC will work across the internet in ways that SCTP doesn't. I love your questions because it makes me go off in a tangent that I really didn't intend at all. So where was I? Back to my pull request. Well, I fixed that pull request. Boom. Where am I? So that is building. Here's a Windows fix. Removing the get tick count warning. Right. And I filed a comment here yesterday, so I'll just leave it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't do much development on Windows, so this is concerning build warning on Windows, so I rather leave it to other people to fix and discuss. So I'll mostly just monitor it and see what people says. I just pointed out that the check source script identified style nits on the code. And since he hasn't responded yet, I figured that maybe he will come back and fix those in a follow-up commit. And here's a fine patch. This is by Brad Spencer, I think, Mr. B. Spencer here. He fixed an issue that when we doing a lot of parallel transfers and we stop everything, he has improved the way we can close name resolves, pending name resolves, if we're using the CARIS backend instead of the threaded name resolving backend. We have a fairly evolved setup for doing name resolves. We can do name resolves using 3 different backends. So we can do them threaded, we can do them with the CARIS library, or we can use them with the stock name resolver, the synchronous one. And there's this thing, if you do a number of parallel transfers and then you stop everything and just quit everything and go back. If you do that with a threaded name resolver, there might be X number of threads still going on with name resolves not completed, and we can't actually terminate those name resolves prematurely. So we have to wait for them to time out. But in the CARIS case, we actually can cancel them at any time. And that is what this pull request fixes. So I'll do like this. I'll view the command line instructions because I like the command line instructions. So this is the pull I will do. I'll go back to the master branch and just to make sure that things look fine, I'll do this extra branch, and I'll run that pull request in that branch. And then I'm going to rebase it interactively, and I'm going to fix up his like that into one single commit, and then I'm going to fix the wording. I want the first line of a commit to be short, then an empty line, and then the longer description. It closes 3428 and it fixes. Which one does it fix? Three, 3, 7, 1. Okay. Sometimes really hard to write good commit messages. So okay. Multi remove handle. Don't block DNS, don't block finishing. Cleaning, killing, terminating serious requests. Okay. No, I was going to try to make a habit of not using all cores when I make, because when I sometimes when I make using all cores, my video will stutter a bit, the live stream, because my compile uses everything. Not that it matters too much if the video stutters, but well, it'll look more beautiful if it doesn't. So okay, PR3371. Right, it is not PR33, it's actually PR30. Doesn't matter. I'm going to merge this into master. And I'm going to push. Boom. And I'm going to express my gratitude and say thanks. That was an awesome pull request, actually. Very good. Very thorough, with test case, with everything green. Just the way we love it. So we're down to 26 pull requests now. Okay. Fun. What we grab next? Then we're 40 minutes in. Let me go another 20 minutes before I get a coffee refill. Coffee is good for you. No, for me. Okay, maybe we should check the bugs then. We have two interesting bugs, actually, I would say. First, there's this multi-socket action. It suggests it means that we have a multiplexing problem when using the event-based API when doing HTTP2 posts. It is interesting. And here are some other ones. This is the one I talked about, the XAttr bug. Here's a linking problem. This is an build install problem that I think we're on top of. I think it's I don't think it's curl's problem really. And here's a memory corruption problem. I think we're ready for this, right? This could be really nasty. The two most important things to keep in mind while managing a project such as curl. That's a good question. I think, well, first I think curl is not a complicated project to keep track of things in, because it's a fairly small project. It's a fairly limited in scope. We don't have any complicated rules. We're not that many people. We don't have, well, I should say we don't have a lot of strong opinions or people wanting things in different directions. So it's fairly simple. A bunch of people, one who work on making a command line tool and a transfer library. So maybe the most important things for me, I should say, for curl, I think, is to make sure that we keep track of all the known bugs, and that we well, over time, of course, I think we've we've gradually improved the way we make sure that things work already when we merge them into curl, into the code. I mean, originally when we did things in curl, we basically merged it first and tested it out later, and then we fixed them along the way. So but we've been sort of adding. We're more and more strict about what we merge, so we have better and better CIs and tests before we even merge code. So I think nowadays it's keeping track of the bugs, the bug tracker. That's one of my key tools to run the project. I would say that is the only really important thing to keep track of. And then I personally like having a way to communicate with people in the project. So I appreciate and like using mailing lists for that, because I still think that is the superior way to discuss things. I like the project to be, a team of people interested in doing this and making it work, and I want it to be something more than just a bunch of bugs, especially if you want to discuss how should we change things in the future, or do another architecture setup or layout, or rename things, or introduce things, or remove things. I like having those discussions over email. Curl is not difficult to manage. It's really easy, actually. What is hard is getting the time and energy to actually do what I want to do in the project, and I think that is easy. That is easily the problem for most people who work on open source. That it's hard to get the time and effort the time and energy to actually work on the to-do list and the bugs that you have to that a project like this actually ends up with. We've been working with curl. Well, it turns 21 years in 2 months. Since the birth of curl, so it's a long time, but we still have as you can see, this bug list. We have 54 outstanding issues right now, 26 pull requests, and this is only because we are pretty aggressive in closing idle ones. So idle pull requests will show up. No, that we will close idle pull requests basically if you're not keeping up with your work and nobody else is taking over. We will close it after a while. if nobody is paying attention. And the same thing with bugs, basically because having bugs that nobody cares about in the bug tracker is just wasting space and cluttering for everyone. So we add them to the known bugs list. So we have hundreds of issues in the known bugs and to-do list. And this is for a project that is very small in scope and has existed for over 20 years. So yeah, it never ends. There's a lot of things. And then I think it's also very important to document as much as possible and as early as possible, really, so that there are not a lot of things in the project that are just knowledge, in people's heads or in people's minds. We should have everything documented everywhere. In man pages and source code and everything, so that if people vanish tomorrow, other people can still continue from where it is. Everything is documented, everything is understood and known, and there are no secrets. Everything is in the open publicly. So back to, that wasn't really the two most important things, but those are the things that I think are important. So I want to seems to related, but okay, back to I want to show this. This seems to be, the bug seems to be related to 2132. But unfortunately, he doesn't have a reproducible test case here. I need to read it properly. So this is, when using curl lock data connect, it is using a shared connection pool between multiple threads. So when one thread has used a connection, it returns it to the pool, and another thread can then fetch that connection, since it's unused by all the involved threads. But sometimes, yeah, and he says he uses the libcurl easy interface. It exists in 61.1 and 62, but I'm more concerned about 63, right? 7.63.0 is the current curl release. And I did some fix recently. I need to go back and see, when did I fix? I did some other race. Here's some git log on the commits recently. When did I do that fix? Right. Is actually that fix I was thinking about. Here's a lovely feature I like. In Git, the describe contains. It shows which tag that has that commit. So this commit hasn't been in a release yet, which is basically what I wanted to see. Okay. So maybe this bug is fixed already. It's a little bit hard to say. Oh yeah, I think Git describe contains is actually really useful, because it's then well, if I suspect a particular commit, I can then use this and see in which release the commit was first included. I think that's really useful, especially when people say, well, I'm using version blah blah blah, and then I might have a fix in this commit. Is it included or not? Actually, quite a common operation in my daily gitting. So he set up so okay, this is a crash. Do you have any? Or perhaps fixed since and the follow up. Yeah, I think I better ask for some help there before spending or wasting or digging into this deeper. At least I can see if that guy Pavel has something for me. It'll certainly make it much easier to debug that if he does. So okay, I'll leave that for now. Okay, then maybe I should dive into this. This is okay. Yeah, let's do this. Doing debugging things for multiplexing HTTP2 is tricky, but shouldn't avoid things just because it's tricky. This is a test code. It's for bug 3436 and I have it saved here. I have it 3436. So this is code that uses the event-based API in curl. It sends 10 parallel HTTP posts to a certain URL that is said to do a sleep for 1 second per stream. So when doing 10 parallel streams, it should just sleep 1 second in total, but this sleeps 10 seconds. So he suggests it's something wrong with the multiplexing. Maybe it is. I need to research this and see what it is all about. So he has two different ways. He has the bad way up here and he has the good way up here. And the good thing is using the regular multi interface, which isn't event-based. He says it just works. And he says the event-based one is causing bad multiplexing, which they're all using the same thing underneath. So I don't think it's the correct conclusion, but I still can't explain his sightings. So maybe I just have to debug this. So I have this debug it, which is a symlink to this 3436.c. I'll just make sure that I built the last version. I didn't. The current version. So this is curl building, and then I go back to my debug directory and I build my debug. That's the 3436 test case. This 3436. It's a bit complicated example or test case, but I think the way it's written seems like it should work like that. It's a little bit odd to use the event-based API and still use select, because select is not event-based. But I suppose this setup should still work. I've read it a couple of times now and I think it's fine. I'm going to remove the good thing just below because I don't want it to ruin anything. So this should be run with an input URI which does the sleep like this, and then I run it. Boom. So we can see that it takes 1 second per transfer, which is not supposed to do. And complete. So then I'd like to have some timing on these things, right? So I want to see where in the flow it actually waits and what it waits on. Is it a select that actually waits? Or where is it waiting? Who's waiting? Has to be the select. It's the only thing that waits something in this. Let's add some debug output. Select waits tv.tvsec tv.tvusec. Just wanted seconds and microseconds output first. See what happens. If it okay, then we can see where's the select. Yeah, selects wait a lot of time. And then nothing. The URL that does the sleep is mentioned in the bug report. It is this URL. A lot of zero sleeps in the end, at least. Jesus. Yeah, I need to restart it. But okay, if go by the first, it'll. If I stop it, we can see that it actually waits for several seconds. Well, it asks to wait for seconds, and in this case, it waits. And I'm interested in how long it actually did wait. Yeah, this is the bug report that in question then, 3436. How long did it wait? If I'm not mistaken, doesn't select update time on Linux? So does the HTTP bean one, does it do the same thing? Does it delay? But is it per stream? It looks like the same behavior. Not sure. Not sure if there's select may update the timeout argument to indicate how much time was left. May update. Get time of day. So I'll just do it the crude way. I'll just do get time of day before we do select, and I'll do one after select returns. One before, one after. And that will then it's called time val before and after. First, let me see that it actually builds. Maybe I needed some include files. No, that works. And now select weights, and then I can do select weighted. And if I'm not wrong, there's some macros. After.tv sec parenthesis problems. Of course, did I do the math right? Rather than think, I'll just try. Boom. Okay, so what is taking the time? It didn't really wait anything in any of these cases. So who's waiting? I think I suspect the use of the API in this example, because this example is really unorthodox in how it uses the event-based API. But at the same time, I looked at it and it seemed to be okay, but so it doesn't seem to be waiting a lot of time. Well, like in this case, 30 milliseconds. Wait 10 seconds, but it waited 3 microseconds. But it's yeah, that's one example in how this example set TV and TV, because this doesn't. I want. Since select updates the TV itself, we have to restore TV or assign TV from set TV for each loop, basically. Yeah, that's 1 second. It waited 1 second for each. It says here now. Why does it wait 10 seconds? That's the default one. It sets 10 seconds. 1,000 seconds. This should show it as a problem. Oh. I'm thinking that it looks like when it's done, so maybe this has something to do when removing a handle from what the application is supposed to wait for. Since the event-based API with libcurl, it tells the application what file descriptors to wait for and what to wait for on each file descriptor. So it's really the application that needs to do the waiting, and libcurl doesn't wait at all. So it just needs to be told, then something happened on this file descriptor, and then libcurls act on that particular file descriptor. But this looks like we might here we are completely uploaded and fine. It looks like one transfer is done, and then I think this removes. Oh right, the file descriptor shouldn't be removed because it's still the same connection for all the transfers. They are multiplexed. Okay, it's not that. But it's still the what. The what part is one there. I think that is removing. And I think that is an error, right? It shouldn't remove. Let me see what the what part is in the header file. Can never remember that. So the socket callback. All right, so HTTP bin, the HTTP bin example is not really not going to be a good test here. No, I think this the original URL is fine, and I think the bug reporter makes a case that if he uses H2 load instead and makes 10 requests, they take 1 second total, which would indicate that he is right, that the sleep is per stream and not per connection. So I think he's right in his observation that this sleeps 1 second per stream when it shouldn't. The question is rather if it's a problem in libcurl or if it's a problem in this application. I think, and the application is really it's not as straightforward to say if it's fine or not. Actually, event-based programming like this is tricky at best. So in this case, more than tricky, I'd say. So okay, where am I? I'm especially concerned about this set34 actually, because this seems to imply that we actually remove the handle, but we shouldn't remove the file descriptor, because the same file descriptor is used for many parallel connections, so it shouldn't remove it. So maybe I should set a breakpoint and see if I actually get it like this. Here's the code. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to do with gdb args breakpoint in the socket callback, and I'm going to see if I actually get it. What is 1 here? It is. What is 4 here? What is 4 equals remove. And it comes from frame 12. No, frame 11. Ah, ha. The file descriptor here is the file descriptor used for name resolving, and that's for CARES, so that is supposed to be closed, I guess. That is curious. So where's the other file descriptor? I better check this again then without GDB. They're all just for file descriptor 3. Shouldn't there be another file descriptor as well? Yeah, this example, this code isn't really the cleanest libcurl API uses. It does nothing to clean up, it just returns and exits. So it doesn't really, it's not a very well behaving libcurl example. But I mean, it doesn't really matter for what I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm going to get myself another cup of coffee, and while walking down to my kitchen, and I'm going to think about it. So yeah, hold on for 2 minutes and I will go and fill this up with some coffee, and I'll be right back. Clearly I need one of those pause screens with a big coffee sign on it instead of this generic weird text that I have from the beginning. Well, here's a cup of coffee. Debugging. I just switch over and check out my pull request status. Still building, nothing has failed yet. That's good, a lot of greens, but the most important ones are still building. Checking out the Travis. None started. Okay. Looks good. Okay then, so regarding this bug, I'm going to switch over and see what if I reduce the number of connections. Can I see something? Well, number of transfers. It does 10 transfers by default without me saying anything. So let's just do one transfer and see if we can figure out anything on the it should typically involve 2 sockets when using CARES for the name resolver backend, but this only seems to use 1 socket. I can't really explain that. Not even after more coffee. Okay. Time to dig in then. Wait resolve state, that's waiting for the resolve result. And during the resolving state, it uses the CARES socket if we're using CARES. And then we have this, of course. Then we go to wait connect. But then it should wait for another socket. Then it's going to wait for the real actual TCP socket. It doesn't seem to say set for that. Why doesn't it? This is weird because this is sort of well, this is old things that have been working for a long time, and it feels like strange that it would not work here. Wait connect get socket. B I wonder if this is the problem. It reuses the same socket number, of course it does. And there it tells the callback about it. this is GDB debugging the test code. And well, I'm single stepping through libcurl code now. You know, when doing multiplexed transfers with curl, we do X number of transfers in parallel. Then we have this logic in curl that extracts all the, well, for each transfer that is going on, it'll extract the socket involved and then possibly tell the application about the socket. And this is the logic I'm going through right now, because obviously there's something wrong somewhere. So this is GDB. This is my command line that I start GDB with, debug it being my test code that uses libcurl. It actually links with the static version of libcurl, which is the way I tend to do it when I develop things, because then it can link with my actual development libcurl that I built in this directory, so that I don't get problems with it linking with my regular shared libcurl. Well, because, you know, as everyone else, I have a libcurl somewhere in my user lib directories, and I have a bunch of applications that I didn't write that are using it already. So I don't want to use the regular system library when I debug libcurl. So somehow this is wrong. And it seems to be like this. It's after we're completely uploaded and fine. And it still wants to wait for something to be readable. I guess it still wants data from the connection, which seems, I mean, yes. Takes that long time, and then it has something to read. Right, because it was sleeping there. So if I do 2 transfers. Yeah, I guess this isn't the most fun stream part. Me trying to figure out weird multiplexing things in here and here, but yeah, what do you do? In here we can see that in that case, first it wanted data, and then it had to wait for 1 second. It read data, and when it wanted to read again, it took another second until it had data. So I want to write my own server side for this so that I'm actually sure what it does. I'm suspecting that the server side doesn't really work exactly the way we think or would want it to, but how do I do this easily? How do I write a HTTP2 server test that sleeps per stream? Any suggestions? Any? I wonder if I can hack up the NGHTTP2 server to just do that. Probably not just by default. Size and thinking. So looking again. What is interesting is that it waits 1 second and then reads, and obviously it doesn't get more. Okay, I don't get it, but I'll just switch and run the other part of this code, which is using the regular multi API, and see how that looks like in debug, or I mean in verbose output, like this. Boom. It runs fast. Did we even sleep 1 second? probably. Timer. Using stream ID 1 to do the first post. So it uses the same connection. Multiplex connection found. That's the way we want it, so that we make sure that it actually multiplexes over the same connection and that doesn't create a new connection. And it makes another then stream ID 3, so 1 and 3. And it continues. Yep. Well, it's not super obvious, at least. So I don't think I need to be ashamed for not having figured it out yet. Time to get real, get my sweater off. Oh, look, I got my awesome Subversion t-shirt from a very long time ago. I was once a committer in the Subversion project. I got a t-shirt. What do I do about this? What do I do? I think I need to drop this for a second to just get a fresh mind on this slightly later. So I'm going to go back and look at other issues. That's the window issue. That's this issue I talked about. I asked about details for this. This is a build problem with curl on AIX. A common problem with building with curl is, you know, when you build curl with configure, you do something like you know, you do something like this. You write configure, and then maybe with or some tools, like if you specify where SSL, the OpenSSL is located, you could do it, you know, provide it with a path wherever you have it installed. And then configure will run, and it'll find a lot of, it'll try to detect third-party libraries and where they are, and then leave a link and with those and so on. Put include headers and everything, so that it'll use them and build everything fine. And one of the key methods of providing information about third-party libraries these days is using the package config file. You know, the package config setup. Was called list all. So package config contains information about third-party libraries. I have a lot of them, as you can see. And when you ask package config, you can ask for what include files to use, or what include, I mean, what command line options to use this for headers and libs and everything. And of course, curl's configure script does that, and it typically just works for most people, so it makes it really easy to build curl on a new system, on a new Linux, I mean any Unix system really. But in some cases the package config thing makes it complicated, because if you, for example, if you install a lot of the libraries in the same directory, and then it's the same custom directory, and then you tell, oh, I want to link with zlib in this custom directory, and the configure script finds it there. Oh, that's excellent. And then it goes on, and then it wants to find OpenSSL in another library. But then the zlib build already set the first path, and then it makes a really complicated case when you might find another OpenSSL in the directory you didn't really want to look in. But it ends up like that anyway. And I think that is this is the case in here, I think. But I don't have enough details to say that for sure just yet. I do consulting contracting, but to offer me consulting or contracting jobs right now, they would be related to internet protocols or curl or curl. I really don't do any other sort of consulting contracting for the moment. So this bug is probably not something I will work on right now. I asked questions about it, so I hope that the reporter will get back. That's the xatr bug again. Here's a bug about curl-v. Yeah, you should see my wallpaper. Let me see if I can display it somehow. Well, I can actually do it like this. I can show my wallpaper. I have the awesome, right, that you can see part of it. It's actually a Simon Stålenhag art picture. Only part of it is visible there. So let me get that one back. Yeah, you should check out Simon Stålenhag. He is an awesome artist. So he's a Swedish sci-fi thing here. He makes these really special. Well, you can see his site over at the top of my page. So he makes these really weird sci-fi contemporary things. I like them. I have them as backgrounds of mine. I don't really see the background very much, but anyway. I understand that you have issues, but I really can't help you with that. So I'm going to close this. He mentioned that there's doesn't see enough details in the verbose output when he uses -v with the TLS 1.3 built to use OpenSSL, but it works when he uses. No, it wasn't. Sorry, I'm confusing matters. We're actually showing everything that OpenSSL tells us. So I don't think this is a bug in curl. I think it's just a limitation in OpenSSL. So it has to be fixed there because it needs to call us and tell us about this. Otherwise, we can't show it. Likely an OpenSSL issue. Closing. Pooh, 53 bugs open now. We have this crash with WinSSL. Again, a problem with the Windows specific builds. So I think I know why the crash happens, and I've suggested a fix maybe, or workaround at least, so we'll see what happens with that. Right, and then we have another crash, this one on iOS. I don't have any iOS development tools myself, and this doesn't even say how it crashed. It just shows a stack trace and says it died when we called close, and it says apparently then iOS has some file handle protection magic that says that we tried to do something on a protective file descriptor. So I had to Google a little bit of what it means, and it basically means that we got the wrong, or probably tried to close a file descriptor for a file that we shouldn't, for a file descriptor we really shouldn't close. And it's that shouldn't happen, but since I can't reproduce it and I can't really explain more about the crash, it's really hard to do anything about it. I don't know what to do. I need more details. Curl should not upload file to SFTP. Could not upload file to SFTP server. Success. I like how some people just write everything so that it appears like this. And then I usually go around and fix their formatting, because in Markdown using those signs is not. This one looks much better. When I return to use the former release 760.0, it could success. Still failed. Still using the wrong formatting. I should really remove the success. Could not upload file to SFTP server. That's the actual. I have the full respect, deepest, fullest respect for people. I mean, people having hard time to actually use the language correctly. I am not even that good myself at writing and speaking English, so add option to save parsed headers. Here's someone who wants an option, a libcurl option, to actually extract headers without adding a header callback. And yeah, maybe we could do that one day. I should it's a decent idea, maybe. I think it's a bit unnecessary since we have a callback, so if you want to have the headers, you can parse them and get them. Maybe we could add something to extract headers generically, but I don't feel like working on it. And if you want it, work on it and provide a fine solution, and we can consider it. And here's FTP and nobody not working properly, and I think no response, closing. 16 days since I asked about it. I'm going to close it. 20 days. not enough details and no response. Closing. This is a bit, I understand that this is not what people like, so maybe this will upset some people, but really if the reporter can't reproduce, I can't reproduce, they can't explain it, and I can't figure out the problem, just having the bug kept around is only going to make it really, they just take up space in the bug tracker. Well, I'm of course a mod. I own the GitHub repository for curl, so I can close curl issues and whatever else is happening in the curl organization. Oh, actually, I'm a owner of the curl organization, so I can actually do things with all repositories under the curl organization. Right, here's the other -v bug report, which this is what I confused the other one with. Because here's verbose output that doesn't appear with OpenSSL but appears when built with LibreSSL or BoringSSL. So it's not really a curl issue. It's an OpenSSL issue. Which is also annoying. I get it that people don't like when I close bugs and say this is not our problem, it's someone else's problem, and that usually doesn't help the user which has a problem and he wants it fixed because it doesn't work for him. But still, we all need to fix the problems in our own backyards, right? So if it's not our problem, we can't fix it, and then we can't fix it, we shouldn't be in our repository. And here's the old fun bug. I'll leave this around for a bit more. This is a rather serious bug for them. They use code that runs several layers on top of libcurl, but they identify a problem with libcurl. I can't reproduce. They can't reproduce with just libcurl, but they're difficult. Oh, and then we go into the weeds with older bugs. Blah 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 blah. A lot of them. Bunch of Windows ones. And this is reuse connection bug when switch network from Wi-Fi to cellular on iPhone. Pretty complicated setup. So he's using, when using libcurl on iPhone, iOS again then. So he uses transfers on one network interface, and then it switches network, and then it should just use another network interface for the subsequent request, and it has an old existing connection available on the old network interface. What happens? In his case, he suggests that, well, libcurl is then supposed to try the request on the existing connection, because it didn't discover that the existing connection went down, because it doesn't do that. I mean, TCP doesn't really discover that the connection isn't around anymore unless there's traffic on it. And so when libcurl sends something on the existing connection, and if it doesn't work, it will fail, and then libcurl should detect that it failed, set up a new connection again, which then would be on the new interface, and resend the request on that connection. This reporter claims that, well, according to his debug output as well, the request is sent on the old connection without a problem. So it doesn't detect that the old connection is rather not working, because there's no fail, there's no write error when sending data to on that connection. So libcurl think it's fine, and then it'll just sit there waiting for the response while the connection is actually dead. I find it curious that it could work like this. It seems like a weird kernel setup thing, or a bug somewhere. I don't know if it's the iPhone simulator thing, or if it's iPhone for real, or don't know. Difficult. I don't have this set up. I can't reproduce, I can't test it, I can only ask for details. And yeah, it looks like a weird TCP stack behavior, but this guy doesn't know about that. He's just a user of libcurl and he writes an app on iPhone. Complicated. Maybe that'll be it for today. What do you say? Anything I should address in particular? There's a pull request to change the CA cert in mem.c example code to make it actually support more than one cert in memory. Since this is a fairly commonly used example that shows how to write an TLS using libcurl application that uses the CA cert entirely in memory. It could be good to show how to verify more than, or to use more than one CA cert in memory and still verify the server correctly, and it looks fine. I just had some comments about the specifics, but I think that is going forward. All right, we have this as well. Maybe let's see. We have this a while ago. We made sure that when you do a regular following, when curl regularly follows a redirect, which the curl command line does with the capital L, it doesn't send custom authorization headers anymore to the new place if it changes host name, just because that's typically, I mean, privacy sensitive. And if you use custom cookies like this and pass it on to curl, it would, and this redirects to another host, curl would still pass the cookie to the other host. And with this fix it won't, which I think is fine. It's a fine change. I just had some comments about it being documented properly. I think some of the things that I'm most proud of in the curl project. I'm proud of a lot of things in the curl project, so I'm most proud. I think, of course, I'm most proud of the actual products that we do. libcurl and curl have become amazingly popular and widely used all over, and that's fascinating. I think we have managed a lot of cool things in the project. I think we have a cool project in that we manage it fine. We don't have any complexities in the project. We don't have a high bar for people to contribute. We're all friendly to each other. We have code that is, I wouldn't say that it is easy to read or always easy to manage, but it's decent. I think we have a good test suite, and we have especially over the last few years, actually improved, and we have a really good CI setup now, so we're testing everything really good. And we're starting to get a good security situation as well. We've had a bunch of security related reports during the last several years, really, which of course is crappy. You don't want security problems, but I think in general the situation with software and security is that the problem isn't the security problems, it's what you do with the security problems that is the most important part. And we work hard to fix them in a responsible manner. And there will be at least one security fix in the pending release on this Wednesday. So, you know, we basically we do releases every 8 weeks, always. So we have the calendar split up, so we have every 8 weeks on Wednesdays we do new curl releases, and during the first 4 weeks of those 8 weeks we allow new features and changes, as we call it, merged into the Git. And on the last half of the release cycle, the 4 weeks features, and then 4 weeks only bug fixes, and then we do release, and then we start over. So on Wednesday we do the feature release, and then we have 4 weeks of bug fixes only, and then we have another release. And then this coming release, called 7.64.0, is due on February 6th, and there is one security fix pending for that. Not a very severe one. It requires a malicious server, and it requires some other specific things, and then bad things can happen. I will of course detail everything back then when we release the release, so you can figure it all out back then. But in general, I think the tools during the last few years have improved a lot. So with fuzzing and everything, people have started to really dig out bugs that we've had for a very long time. So a lot of the reports we have for security problems, they actually identify problems we inserted years ago. And hopefully the worst offenders are already identified now. So I hope, cross my fingers, that we will actually have fewer security reports going forward. We had 12 reports last year. We have 12 reports the year before that. Maybe we will have less than 12 reports in 2019, even if we start out with one in the first release. Well, at least one. There's still time to get more if more people report them. We'll just see what happens. Okay, I think I'm going to stop now, and I think also that I will be back tomorrow again, 9:30 my time, Central European, because why not? Um, I have the time and it's fun. So if you have questions or bugs you know about, tell me about it and we can work on it. I need to, of course, go back and see if I can figure out some of those other things more. And of course, I will continue to work on curl even when I don't live stream. So tomorrow morning, the situation will be slightly different than it is now. My pull request for the Xatter thing is still building. Our CI is very thorough, but it's not very fast. I mean, until done. So okay, I'll call that a day and see you again tomorrow. Bye bye.